City's Cryptid.
Alright, so hello again. It is Caro, the usual city crypt, of course. So I decided for this one a little more lighthearted, not too much about curses or anything of that nature. I decided, since I was talking about this family dog of mine who sadly passed away last year, it's almost gonna reach 1 year soon, rest in peace, I figured why not talk about the funny stories I recall of him and just talk about him in general, because what better way to reminisce? So this pet of mine was a dachshund, Chubbies, which is also a wiener dog for those that don't know much about dogs. Yeah, his name was Chubbies. I actually designed a Day of the Dead wiener dog after him for my Demon OC Zelly. I named him Senior Chalky because I figured that was clever since his little paws has chalks. But anyway, other than that, go ahead and get started with telling you guys some stories I recall about Chubbies. So we originally got him because my sister's turtle passed away, and the way my sister's turtle passed away was because my mom, for some reason, thought that the turtle needed to be by an AC because it was very hot and she was worried he was gonna overheat. My mom had zero idea that's not how it works for turtles. So sadly he passed away. His name was Roger, I recall. And my auntie offered to give us another turtle, but my sister was crying and begging me not to get another turtle, and it was literally right after she buried him that she offered. So they were just asking me because my sister was a sopping mess. But since my sister said no, I watched Curious George a lot and a lot of PBS cartoons, and I just saw dogs a lot, and I just flat out just said, oh, why not a dog? Of course, my mom was not excited about this, but I said a dog, and my auntie was like, sure, I could give you a dog. And that's when we ended up with Chubbies, who was originally hers, but he became ours. First, he was a little rough, especially with me, because I was a very hyperactive child. I had zero control, which I'll admit, and again, that's pretty normal for a child to be hyper and a little misbehaving. Sometimes Chubbies would bite me a lot for being too rough or bothering him too much. I remember, though, as we were growing up, he started to slowly latch onto us, especially after an accident happened where the neighbor's bigger dog bit him. So after that, he started to become further attached to us and started to basically become my sister's dog right away. He would always sleep in our beds, even though my mom said no dogs in the beds. Of course, he would never listen. I recall one of the highlights is my mom used to hit us when we misbehaved a lot when we were younger, but after we got Chubbies, she stopped because every time she would whip out the belt, I recall him barking at her and growling at her and literally jumping on the bed every time me and my sister would freak out and get scared that she was gonna hit us. He started to really show his personality, if I'm being honest, because I recall moments like how he enjoyed sitting on the computer chairs, and no matter what, he would always want to sit on it. Even when he got older and was struggling to get on the chair, he would still want help. And I definitely recall his sassy personality and I might be to blame for that, mostly because I recall my mom had a tendency to stop and talk to her friends, and then I would be stuck standing there and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. So I just wanted to sorry, I have my water bottle with me because my throat's getting dry. So because my dog, Chubbies, wanted to do walkies, obviously, to do his business, I figured, you know what, we're just gonna go around the block. And when I lived in the city, it was just going around the block. So I figured I'll just walk him myself. It's not that big of a deal. We're literally just going around a block. It was literally like 3 p.m. It wasn't dark out. It would be fine. So basically from there, I accidentally taught the dog how to get home and how to do if it was taking too long, because my mom just enjoyed talking a lot. But yeah, I recall that I ended up accidentally teaching him this because of the fact of, well, later on when my mom would take him out on her own when I was busy doing like homework and stuff, apparently she freaked out thinking that she lost the dog. Her and my sister were freaking out, and only for her to see him just casually chilling by the porch. Like we had a porch outside, and so there was a gate, and then there was the front porch, I guess yard, but it's just concrete, and then stairs leading up to the actual door to the apartment. He was basically chilling on the concrete stairs, just essentially waiting for her, because he can open the gate easily, because all he has to do is just jump on it and just use his weight to push it open and then just go in. But the other door he couldn't, because that would require pulling it out, and obviously he can't do that. But yeah, I recall my mom being so pissed, but also it's just funny the fact that he essentially was like, you know what, I'm gonna do this walk all by myself, and managed to walk around the block and then essentially go straight home, and was just sitting there thinking like, all right, so any day now she'll be coming and we can finally go back inside already because I'm tired. But I'll just be chilling here. Yeah, that was one thing I recall he did a lot, and that kind of taught my mom, like, hey, don't just keep us standing here all day. I also recall a time when we first got him. Like, this was when my mom used to hate his guts, for lack of a better term, because of the fact of, well, he's a dog. She didn't want a dog. She was mad about this, so she was like not a big fan of him at first. So this was very early on. We came back home from picking me up from school, because I recall I was in the 4th grade. Yeah, like I was around 8-9 years old, and I was just met with a bunch of Cheeto pups, like the little Cheetos that were puffy and stuff. Like, I was met with that all over the kitchen, all over the floor, the tables, the counters. It was everywhere, and it was all the way up to the living room, and me and my mom just stared very confused, because my mom was probably thinking, if we got robbed, then these burglars oddly had a very specific object they wanted to rob, which was probably just the food, but there was still food and stuff, just cheese puffs everywhere. And then we found our answer when we heard the sounds of, because Chubbies had like nails and stuff, we could just hear the little like of him just prancing into the room, and he's just wearing a giant orange bag of the cheese puffs, which that's when we put 2 and 2 together, that somehow either her or my sister or possibly my brother, because I know for a fact I didn't eat them, had the bag, left open said bag and the kitchen table, and the dog used one of the chairs that was left wide enough for him to jump in, to jump on the chair, get on the table, stick his head in the bag to get a cheese puff, because that's dogs for you, they want to eat human food. And somehow he was successful, but a bit too successful, because now the bag's now stuck in his head, and there's nobody here to help him. So his solution was to run all over the place while we were gone and try to get the bag off. And I think he must have failed, or he just gave up and decided to lay on the floor / couch, whichever, who knows, and waited for us to get home. So that's what I believe had happened. And yeah, I remember how my mom was trying really hard to grab the bag off his head, but because he was so excited to see us, because if for anybody that's dog owners out there, you already know how it is. You walk away for like 10 minutes to go to the corner store or something, or just get gas or whatever, and you come back and the dog freaks out like you've been gone for 20 years or something. He was excited that he somehow forgotten that there's this bag stuck in my head, human, help me, and was just running around all over the place, shaking his head with the bag shaking with him, just rustling around. My mom's struggling to get it off while I'm just standing there not coming inside yet, because I don't want to step on the cheese puffs and make a bigger mess. But yeah, she struggled for a good 5 minutes until finally she managed to get the bag off his head. And then after that, she started yelling at him, and then that's when he went from, oh my god, I missed you so much, to run away. He just ran away and essentially realized, like, oh crap, that's right, I made this mess, oh no. The story will forever remain engraved in my skull, just because it sounds something so, like, out of a kid's show, that's the last thing you would expect to happen in real life. But no, it's true story. I remember also there was a time when he got older, when he had enough of walking, instead of keep on walking, he would turn around and walk back home. So he definitely developed even much more sass, and this was not for me. He would just turn right around and walk back home. And I can't help but think, man, he has got some of my teenage personality, huh? All that story, and how annoyed my mom was. But he's old. But there were times that sometimes I wonder if he was faking it with the whole, like, oh, I'm old, I need help, I can't do this, because I live in this apartment complex with my family. There was a basement, there was a first floor, there was a second floor, and then there was the attic. And it was pretty big. It was fairly big, I'll be honest. Which is not surprising, it's in the city, of course. I recall it had a lot of stairs. There was stairs that would circle around the building, there was just a lot of levels, essentially. And basically, I recall him apparently struggling to go down the wooden steps. And these weren't like wooden as in you can get a splinter, like there was already paint over it, so it was fine. He was having trouble going down the wooden steps and needed help, apparently. So I did that, but also I was very confused because I thought in my head, like, I would assume this would be easier. And then apparently my dad was making fun of me because he's like, you know, he's faking that, right? And I told him, what do you mean? And he's like, I seen him go up the stairs and down those stairs by himself when nobody's looking, or at least he thinks nobody's looking. And I can't help but think in my head, like, of course, he just wanted to be coddled and, you know, treated like little prince that he thinks he is. Who am I kidding? I literally spoiled him. For those wondering, like, what do you mean? I thought he was your sister's pet. He became my sister's, like, originally intended to. Then he became my mom's. And when my sister was gone for a good chunk of time to Spain for a high school trip. But then when my sister officially moved out and my mom got a different job. My mom used to work for, like, United Center. But because she was job hopping at the time, though, so because of that, she wasn't in the house as often. So me having my life being, I wake up, I go to school, go home. I wake up, go to school, go home. Because my mother and father, mostly my mom, had a very strict way of doing things in the sense of, I recall having my first phone when I was literally 10 or 11, and even then, that was a stretch. It wasn't, I'm trying to remember if it was like it was probably like some cheap BlackBerry or whatever. But anyway, that's not the point. So because I was essentially the only one in my house, besides my brother, which my dog hated with a passion because my brother would hit him a lot, so of course he's gonna hate him. He grew attached to me and would just hang out in my room and would just essentially, that's when he became my dog. And yeah, I consider him my dog and my best friend. Will always have. And I guess one thing I remember that was probably the biggest highlight for me on how attached he was and how much he literally, it's one of those moments where, like, yeah, dogs really are your best friends. One time at the city that I lived in, not gonna name it, but I'm pretty sure you could figure it out based off of the intro. Because of the neighborhood I lived in, there was a lot of crimes and stuff, of course. It wasn't like full-on gun war like the Old West or whatever. It would literally just depend on the time and place you were in and things of that nature. But yeah, so I lived in a shady neighborhood, I guess a lot of people would consider it. So because I lived in a shady neighborhood, some crimes tend to happen a little too close to home, but not exactly like across the street, but still, especially because of my sibling. Not gonna name which one, but I know who they are. Did a lot of suspicious activities. I did become familiar with the police and whatnot. I didn't know their names, obviously, but like it just became the norm for me to see policemen around my neighborhood and the cars and whatnot. So because of that, I think it was a gang member. I don't know. I don't know the full details, but I know it was either a gang member or a guy apparently stole something. Slash, I think had a gun. I don't know the full details again. So he was on the run and they were chasing after him, and for some reason this guy decided to go through our gate specifically. Back door was open. I can't recall if he went through the back door or, because I remember my dad was having like a cookout or something. He just ran downstairs to the basement and closed the door and basically locked himself in there when my cousin's boyfriend at the time was like outside with my dad. So yeah, and apparently it was super extreme because I was just at my room, just doing my usual thing, just chilling, watching TV on the computer or whatever. And Chubbies obviously was chilling in the chair because he always loved the computer chair, especially getting to sit behind me. So I was very confused when all of a sudden I hear this loud banging noise, and I just heard shouting. It was a female voice shouting something. I wasn't sure what exactly, and I just heard more banging noise, and I just froze because I literally did not know what to do. And I stood there as I just hear a loud bang, and all of a sudden I hear like cops being like, they said put your hands up. I don't remember exactly what, but I knew it was probably something along the lines of stay where you are, stay where you are, or where is he, or whatever. But I just froze, and my dog Chubbies obviously was barking because he was thinking like, holy shit, what's going on? What the fuck? Do I need to bite somebody? Do I need to protect somebody? What the fuck? But yeah, he was losing it, and I had to like just hold him because all I could think in my head is like, dear God, please don't shoot my dog, I beg of you. It was my first concern was the dog. Do not hurt my dog, please. Because I remember, I believe my sibling was sleeping with their significant other, but I literally didn't care. I was more worried about the dog, if anything, because that's how attached I was to him. But yeah, I remember holding him and just thinking in my head, like, fuck. As next thing I know, I see these cops running towards us, because I stuck my head out and noticed there were flashlights and stuff, and I obviously went back into my room, was holding the dog, and they were running towards us, and they go into, one of them went in my room, I believe, well, not going inside the room, but basically one of them stayed where my door frame was, and it was a cop lady, I recall, and next thing I know, I just see her staring at me and holding the gun while I'm staring back at her wide-eyed like, hello. As I'm holding my dog, who is currently freaking out and also scared out of his mind because he sees the gun, and we're both staring at her, ears in the headlights, thinking, oh, hi there, so that you got there, why are you pointing at that at me? And she just stared at us, and I think I was horrified because I was just wondering, like, why are you pointing that at me? Please don't aim that at me. Please aim that somewhere else, anywhere but me and my dog. Now I can't help but think this poor woman is probably thinking like, God damn, I think I just traumatized a teenager and her dog. And I'm hearing the other officers go, like, basically wake up my sibling and their significant other, and so, you know, after everything's all said and done, of course, there's a bunch of cars surrounding the apartment, and of course, I see the news covering this being like the news. I don't know how else to describe it. After all of that was said and done, I'ma just go to bed because this has been enough eventfulness for me. I'm just gonna lay down and hopefully fall asleep. Hopefully, I don't know, my heart was racing because I was still a little bit on edge. So I'm just laying in bed, and I couldn't help but pause hearing the sounds of, like, my dog just back and forth in the kitchen and basically everywhere. So I can't help but think, like, oh God, he must be terrified. So I turned the light back on in my room, because I turned all the lights off because I was like, I'm done, I'm going to bed, I'm not getting out, I don't care what y'all do, I'm done. So I turned my room light on, so that's the only light on, and I just figured, like, you know what, I don't care what mom says. You could just chill in my bed tonight, because I'm traumatized a little bit, you're traumatized a little bit. I think we both need a little comfort. So I remember picking him up and just having him lay next to me after, you know, I turn off the light and stuff. And yeah, I recall he just ended up laying down right next to me as I just ended up falling asleep with him just laying down with me. And I recall he apparently stayed there all night because that's how terrified he was, and he stayed very close to me as much as possible. Like, he was just literally laying down next to me because my mom apparently got home and she was checking, because my mom has a tendency to tell me, like, to leave the door open just so the dog can, like, go out and do his business, because we lay newspapers out in case he has to go and can't wait till we go outside and stuff, or if it's too rainy and to just go there. So yeah, I just leave the door open, that way he could just go in and out and do that. So she came home and was checking in on me, since she just has a habit of doing that. that because I'm the youngest, and of course. But yeah, so she came in my room and she didn't turn on the lights because I was asleep, obviously. She didn't want to wake me up because I wasn't that heavy of a sleeper. Like, I sleep pretty heavy, but not to that degree, because if I hear like screaming and shouting, I'm gonna freak the fuck out. But so she just peeked her head in and heard snoring, and she mentioned I had a tendency to snore, but apparently the snore was a lot louder and more deeper and huskier. So she was very confused and was wondering, like, does she have a cold? What's going on here? And then she realizes when she noticed a very odd silhouette, a small lump, realizing it was the dog, and realized what happened, like, oh, so the dog is sleeping next to her. Yeah, so it was, I'm not gonna lie, that was kind of funny to me, the fact that she was very confused about snoring. But yeah, apparently it was that bad to the point where he just stayed there and was just out like a light because of the fact that he was near me, so that way, I guess essentially he was like, alright, I'm good. She's with me, we're gonna be okay, and just knocked out afterwards. Just like how I ended up knocking out afterwards, because again, that was probably one of the most eventful things in my life, but also one of the sadly most eventful things in my life in the sense of being traumatizing, because I think that's the last thing I want to experience, as cool as it may look in the movies. That whole thing, the adrenaline rush, the fear, just everything. It's great to feel on a roller coaster ride, or like when you're watching a movie or a horror movie or something like that, because that's why I love horror movies. But it's not great to feel it when it's IRL and literally you can't help but think in your head, like, am I gonna get hurt? So those were stories of Chubbies and me. I'm sorry if I ended up making it dark and depressing or a little too traumatic. I apologize again. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'm just gonna stop it here for now. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it, and hopefully I'll see y'all next time for another tale. Bye.